Alright, hey, welcome back. Today we're going to be covering some more general NBA news. Of course, one of the hottest topics in the NBA over the past few weeks and the past month or so has been the Brooklyn Nets with their new big three of Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and James Harden. Over the last weekend, they played two title heavyweights in the Los Angeles Clippers and the Los Angeles Lakers, and they won both of them in a somewhat convincing manner. They beat the Lakers by 11 points. They snuck by the Clippers in a 4-point victory, even though at one point they were up 15, and now the Brooklyn Nets are on a 6-game winning streak. And so we just wanted to cover some of the title contenders in the NBA and who's got the best shot at a championship right now. And so I want to pose the question to you guys: who do you think right now is the title favorite? Who do you think has the best chance of winning the title?
I think it's still the Lakers, just due to their chemistry and they've retained all their players, or pretty much all the players from last season. But I think over the season goes along, with the more James Harden gets more chemistry with Kyrie and then DeAndre Jordan and all of those players, I feel like the Nets, by the end of the season, the Nets should be the title favorites. But right now, as it stands, I got the Lakers, just due to their chemistry and all of that.
For me, I feel like talent kind of trumps all, and so if you have the more talent you have, obviously you have a better chance of winning. And so as of now, the Nets have the most talent in the NBA on their team because they got Kyrie, they got Harden, they got KD, and when all three are clicking, it's over, because the offensive rating, the three of them combined, is like breaking records right now. No team can stop that kind of offensive firepower. And just like, if they get someone like Boogie from the who might get cut, you never know, because Boogie can give that that share of juice on the offensive end, not so much on the defensive end, obviously. But I feel like it's still like the Nets' chip to lose. And obviously they made that all-in trade. They traded their whole future for this, and so I'm excited for Harden, because this is obviously the best shot he ever had to win a title. And I really hope he does, because he's done so much for Houston and everything, and it's just only right for him to win one. And obviously, I feel like they're the clear favorite here, but you can't count LeBron out, obviously.
Yeah, and speaking of the Brooklyn Nets, let's take a closer look at them. Obviously, the Houston Rockets traded James Harden to them. So, obviously, we all know that this is a once in a lifetime team as far as their offensive talent. They've been breaking all kinds of records offensively, but the real question comes defensively for them. They've had games where they've given up a whole lot of points. There was a point where they were giving up 120 plus every single game. But I feel like they have tightened it up a little bit over the past few games, especially on that road trip on the West Coast. What do you think the Brooklyn Nets have to do with their defense? Do you think that it's going to be something where they just have to play more games together, or do you think you make a trade for, a veteran or someone like a PJ Tucker or anyone that, can play good defense for them, both on the interior and on the perimeter?
I feel like the defense is going to come within games, but I think they do have to make a trade for someone defensively. Maybe, like I just said, maybe PJ Tucker, or maybe they look into the buyout market, maybe potentially Andre Drummond for the defensive rebounding, potentially, or someone like that, like a rebounder for the defensive side. But I think for the most part, the defense is going to come along together with more games played. Like, as we've seen, I think we played almost, I don't know the exact number of games, but they played a decent amount of games with Harden and Kyrie and KD. So the more games they play, I feel like the defense is going to come along together.
Yeah, I feel like, although they'll need the chemistry to start clicking on defense. I think they're just going to be known as that offensive cannon. They're going to be that glass cannon in a way that I feel like no matter even though they're going to put effort on the defensive side, I feel like they're mainly majority 95% going to be an offensive team, and they're just going to win games by basically scoring the most points, and that's fine. I mean, there's other ways to win, and so I feel that that's going to happen. Obviously, I feel like it would be a great fit for PJ Tucker to the Nets. That would be such a great fit, because obviously PJ has that chemistry with Harden, and with Harden facilitating like he is at Brooklyn, it's gonna be really good for PJ because PJ can't create on by himself. He's a spot up shooter, but there's some days that he's kind of rusty on that. But I feel like if he gets back with Harden, like they're both bros and everything, and so I feel like PJ would be a great addition, like you mentioned earlier. So I feel like they can do both things, but they're mainly going to be offensive team in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. Obviously they have all the offensive talent, but I think it is how they figure things out on defense that will determine whether or not they win the championship. Mm-hmm. So now let's talk about James Harden. He was, of course, a member of our Houston Rockets for the past 8 years, and now he's gone to Brooklyn, where he's gone from being one of the best scorers in the NBA to now he's sort of taken a step back in his scoring, no pun intended, by, going more for a facilitator's role and sort of making sure that he gets everyone involved, making sure that Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, Joe Harris, Jeff Green, TLC, all of those guys get their open looks. What are your thoughts on, the way that he's adjusted to this role and the way that he's playing right now in Brooklyn?
I feel like he's adjusted perfectly to the need of the Brooklyn Nets, what they really need is a passer, someone to distribute the ball like James Harden can. But I feel like we've all known James Harden can do this, but he's just been more highlighted by the scoring, like all the scoring accolades and everything he's done in his career. But we've all seen and know James Harden can be this type of player. It's just the media, how they drive him as this ball hog or score, whatever you want to call it. But I feel like his the way he's playing right now, it really fits the Brooklyn Nets really well. I feel like he had like 16 assists the other game. He's having crazy amount of assists every game. He's also scoring a decent amount of points. I think he's averaging like 23 or 24 since he joined the Brooklyn Nets. So yeah, I think the way he's taking a step back is really good for the Nets and him.
Yeah, so I think this version, like Brooklyn Harden, is the most deadliest. I mean, there's no, Harden never had an issue with adjusting to superstars, especially like when Russell Westbrook joined the team. A lot of people thought there's only one ball and they're both ball hogs or whatever, but obviously that didn't really matter. Like, the reason why that Rockets team didn't do so well is because Westbrook got an injury, that quad injury, and that Daniel House bubble incident that kind of ruined everything. And so that just kind of messed everything up. And so, Harden never had an issue with adjusting to superstars. He's been doing it his whole career. And I feel like Brooklyn Harden's the most deadliest because right now he's facilitating. He's passing the ball wherever he wants, but he also has that potential to take over that game. When Kyrie was out, when KD was out, Harden basically took over the game, and that should scare teams, honestly. So I feel like Harden is I feel like it's chip season right now. I mean, honestly, I don't see anyone this is the best Harden ever that I've ever seen ever.
Yeah, this has been a really fun Harden to watch, and now let's turn our focus away from the Brooklyn Nets and let's take a look at the LA Clippers. Of course, last season with all that happened in the bubble with them blowing a 3-1 lead, a lot of people are taking them less seriously now, but that does not change the fact that this Los Angeles Clipper team is still a very, very deadly team and definitely worthy of championship consideration. In fact, a good number of people still have them coming out of the Western Conference because of course, their star power in Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, two guys who were elite on the offensive and defensive end of the ball, and also some solid role players around them. You got Lou Williams, you got Serge Ibaka, you got Nick Batum, Patrick Beverley. What are your thoughts on the Los Angeles Clippers right now?
Obviously, like you said, I think the Clippers, they're one of the title heavy favorites, but I don't see the Clippers really gonna put any pressure on the Lakers or anybody in the West to make the finals. I don't think the Clippers are really gonna do much in the playoffs again. I feel like they're probably gonna get knocked out maybe second round, but you gotta obviously respect them. As a team, they're really good. Have Kawhi, Paul George, all those players. But I don't think they're really gonna pose too much of a threat to the Lakers. Maybe if Denver could get it together, Denver, or even the Trailblazers. I think they're doing pretty okay right now. I feel like they could probably even beat them, but I don't see the Clippers really doing much.
Yeah, I feel like the Clippers are low-key a dark horse team, which is surprising because last year they got all the hype, and now this year they're laying low, and so I feel like they're gonna be scary if people don't pay attention to them. They're gonna shock some people. I mean Clippers, like obviously they got a really good thing going with obviously you got Ibaka, you got Kawhi, like you said, like all like a super really good defensive team, like one of the best defensive teams out there. And so if anything, they could be the ones to stop that like Brooklyn Nets powerhouse because they have the personnel to kind of minimize them. Like obviously not fully stop them, but they got one of the best chances of minimizing them because you got Kawhi, you got Paul George, obviously one of the best two-way players ever, and like in this league right now. And then you got Ibaka, who's really good on the defense side too. And so I feel like the Clippers are just a sneaky good team right now. But yeah, I wouldn't say they're like they still are contenders, but they aren't like the top two favorites like the Lakers or the Nets, I would say.
Yeah, and let's talk about Paul George. Of course, he was getting a lot of criticism last season for his play in the playoffs. But this season, he's been having a very underrated season. He's been averaging 24.4 points per game on 51% from the field, 47% from three, 89% from the free throw line. What are your thoughts on Paul George's bounce-back season, and do you think that he can keep this up come playoff time?
I feel like he's been really well. The stats are really nice, and then on like with your watching with your eyes, like the eye test has been really good playing for the Clippers. I feel like he's gonna keep it up, but the playoff P, that thing, or the pandemic P or whatever it is, I don't think that's really true. I think he's fallen off in the playoffs in recent times, but I feel like he's gonna play like normal Paul George in the playoffs. I don't think it's really gonna. I feel like it's gonna be his normal self.
Yeah, I think the whole like shortcomings with Paul George in the last year were just mental. He had some. I feel like he was having some issues, like just like he wasn't in the right mindset. Sometimes, like I feel like he spoke out about it, and so obviously those are very like serious issues. And I'm glad he got them fixed for this season. And I just think it's like I said, it's mental. I feel like he has the tools, he has the capabilities to be great, like he has in the past. And so I think I'm really happy for Paul George. Like he heard all the slander, and now he's proving it on the court, and really great to see that from him.
Yeah, and it'll be very interesting to see, can the Clippers compete with the Lakers? Can they make it out of the Western Conference? The second to last team that we're going to be looking at is, of course, the defending champion, Los Angeles Lakers. Again, I don't think that there's much to talk about here. Of course, you have, they're pretty much running it back. You have your core of LeBron, Anthony Davis, you have Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. Let's see, who else? They have Kyle Kuzma, Alex Caruso, all those guys. But the main additions of Montrezl Harrell and Dennis Schroeder, they've been playing pretty well. The main question that I want to ask you guys about the Los Angeles Lakers, of course, Anthony Davis suffered that Achilles injury roughly a week ago. How do you think that Achilles injury is going to affect the LA Lakers' chances of going, making it out of the West or winning a championship, if it will at all?
If he's right now, I think they can manage without AD. They're gonna perform like the regular Lakers at least in the regular season. But come to playoff time, if AD is out for the playoffs, or if he misses some games, or if he's not 100% or whatever, I feel like Lakers, they're really, like a team could really come in and probably beat the Lakers. Because sure, you have Schroeder, Caruso, Kuzma, all of them. But it's going to be a similar situation to, I guess you could say, LeBron in Cleveland. Cleveland, he had some pieces, Kevin Love, J.R. Smith, he was okay. But I feel like it's going to be a similar situation there. It's going to be LeBron with a bunch of role players, or like average players type thing. So if AD is out come playoff time, like I said, I don't think the Lakers are really going to do that well.
Well, I think that if AD is out for a couple of months, now that could be an issue chemistry wise. But I feel like LeBron and AD are so close that like when AD does return, oh, just things will start clicking again, just like the old times, right? And so, and I wouldn't really count the Lakers out even if they didn't have AD because LeBron hasn't lost in the first round if I'm not mistaken. So I don't see a LeBron-led team in the playoffs losing in the first round. I just don't see it happening. Like LeBron, you're 17 or whatever, age 35. I don't know, y'all have heard it, but he's still playing he's playing like he hasn't really lost a step, and so I wouldn't obviously count this Lakers team out, and I'm sure they'll make some adjustments. Vogel's doing a great job with that team, and it'll be interesting to see. I mean, 80 won't be out forever, and so if they make it past the first round, I feel like 80 will definitely be back by then, and we'll just. And then they should probably make it to the finals at this point because their team right now is better constructed than last year, and that says something. So, and they won the championship last year. So we'll just see about that, but obviously never count LeBron out.
Yeah, and yes, LeBron James has never lost in the first round, but of course you have to consider that for the majority of his career he was in the Eastern Conference, which is quite a bit weaker than the Western Conference, and of course this year the West is absolutely stacked. You've got teams from top to bottom that are very, very competitive. Yep. So it'll be very interesting to see, number one, how that Anthony Davis situation goes down, and also how this Laker team can put it together and make a run in the Western Conference.
But there's also other dark horses out there, like in the Eastern Conference, like Milwaukee. You can't count out Giannis out. I feel like this season is kind of like a make or break for Giannis. I want to hear y'all thoughts about that because a lot of people are kind of calling Giannis a choker or things like that. So what do y'all think about Milwaukee?
I think Milwaukee's they've had a very interesting season. Of course, they picked up Drew Holiday in the offseason, trading him for Eric Bledsoe. That was sort of their move to sort of convince Giannis, like, hey, sign your Supermax, stay with us. And it worked. They got Giannis to sign that Supermax, and now he's locked in for the next 5 years. And since then, things have gone meh for the Milwaukee Bucks. They went on that little losing streak, and of course, in that losing streak, they were missing Drew Holiday, and so that might be a reason as to why they were struggling. I think once Drew Holiday comes back into the lineup for this Milwaukee team, I think we can really judge what they're going to be able to do. Now, as far as what they can accomplish this season, I still do not see them beating Brooklyn, or maybe even, I don't even think that they can beat Philadelphia. So, while yes, it will be interesting to see what Milwaukee does with their guys, with Drew Holiday and all the other new signings and trades that they've made, I don't think that it's going to be enough to get them to even the conference finals. Never mind the NBA finals.
Yeah, I agree with what Fred just said. I don't think they could get past the Eastern or the Eastern semifinals, or maybe even the first round, because like as you said, they've been struggling. Sure, they've missed on Drew Holiday, but even with Drew Holiday, they haven't been like anything crazy, anything special. The team, like, they've been the same old Bucks, like average, like not average, like the same way they've been playing in previous years. Sure, they have their really good games and really good runs, but then when it comes down to it, they don't really produce to the expectations that many people have. So I don't think the Milwaukee are really going to contend with Brooklyn. But with the 76ers, I feel like they could beat them, but this comes down to, can Giannis play at that MVP level that we know he can play?
And there's also another team that we're forgetting about, like the Jazz. I know, like, not a lot of people consider them as like one of those title contenders, but as of right now, they're one of the top seeds in the NBA. So, what are y'all thoughts about the Utah Jazz? Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert.
I think that this is just another one of those teams that's going to have like an excellent regular season, but come playoff time, they're just not going to do that well. I think a lot of people were actually drawing comparisons to an Atlanta Hawks team from a few years ago. Yeah. I believe it's the Atlanta Hawks team from 2014, 2015. I think around that time was when the Atlanta Hawks were one of the best teams in the NBA. No, it was not. Let's see. 2014-15 Hawks. Yes, like I said, they were an excellent regular season team, but they didn't really do much come playoff time because they don't have that big star. I mean, Donovan Mitchell is a star in the making, and he has a very promising future, but he's not the type of guy who I think could lead your team super deep in the playoffs. And people will say the bubble, but a lot of things have shown us this season that a lot of the things that happened in the bubble we might not be able to take that too seriously. Denver's been struggling this season. Miami's been struggling this season. And so I don't have any motivation to feel like the Utah Jazz are any more legit this season than they were in seasons prior.
Yeah, I don't really see the Utah Jazz really going to do much in the playoffs. Sure, they have a really good regular season run, but I think they've had previous runs like this. Not as good, but they've had some pretty good runs. And then come playoff time, Rockets have always pretty much destroyed in the playoffs. So I feel like it's going to be no different. Whoever they play in the first round, probably going to make it out the first round, but they're not really going to pose too much of a threat to either LA teams or Denver potentially, or any really major favorites coming out the West. I feel like the Utah is going to be the same Utah.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be pretty interesting to see. And I think that's pretty much it for the video. There's a lot of interesting teams out there. You never know which team is gonna kind of upset a team. There's some sneaky teams out there. And that's pretty much it for the video. Let us know who you think is gonna win the title this year. And as always, be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on post notifications. Thank you all for watching.